Do y'all see that? Or is my eyes the only one playing tricks? Come on now, am I the only one? Tell me my mind going crazy and that I'm the only one see this. My mama, my stepdad, my godmama, everybody think I'm going crazy. It's moving too. I'm holding my phone still. You know, I'm trying to hold it as still as I can. And see it moving. Y'all see that?
In Colorado and Nebraska,
That is so creepy.
a mystery in the night sky. What some say are drones, lots of them, but no one seems to know from where or why.
That little dot right there.
Jennifer Rollins was visiting family in Yuma County the day after Christmas when she spotted the flying objects, capturing this one on camera.
It's just hovering there.
It's a mystery and you want answers.
Yeah, and I think everybody out there does too. It's really unnerving to be out there by yourself and you see these flashing lights near your home. You want to know what it is and why it's out there.
The enigma puzzling Colorado and Nebraska law enforcement in more than a dozen counties. Witnesses say the drones typically appear after sunset, as many as 30 flying in formation, 200 to 300 feet above ground, some with wingspans estimated at 6 feet. One sheriff pinpointing the area where a rancher spotted some on New Year's Eve.
He observed anywhere from 5 to 10 drones over about a 25-mile square radius.
Although they don't believe the flying objects to be malicious, officials want answers. Colorado Senator Cory Gardner tweeting that he's closely monitoring the situation. A Federal Aviation Administration spokesman telling CNN multiple FAA divisions and government agencies are investigating these reports. It's not clear if the flights are breaking any laws, but they've drawn attention just as the FAA proposed sweeping new regulations requiring most drones to be identifiable. Legal or not, CNN aviation expert David Susi says they could pose a threat.
People think, oh, it's just a drone, it's a small drone, it's no danger to aircraft, but it is in fact a danger to aircraft. They still are made of metal and they can go through the aircraft and cause damage. Even engine ingestion can cause an engine failure.
Some theories suggest the drones could be flown by private companies conducting land surveys, or part of a show like this one. Someone tinkering with new Christmas gifts? Not likely.
Formation drone and flying in fleets is not something for the amateur.
Look at this thing. It's rotating.
Images of that rotating thing captured by U.S. Navy aircraft, sensors locking in on the target. Commander David Fravor saw it firsthand during a training mission, describing it like a 40-foot-long tic-tac, maneuvering rapidly and changing direction.
And as we both looked out the right side of our airplane, we saw a disturbance in the water and a white object, oblong, pointing north.
The object was first sighted in 2004, then similar objects again in 2015. Footage of the sightings, declassified by the military, weren't made public until December 2017 by the New York Times and a group that researches UFOs.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
This was extremely abrupt, like a ping pong ball bouncing off a wall. The ability to hover over the water and then start a vertical climb from basically zero up towards about 12,000 feet and then accelerate in less than 2 seconds and disappear is something I had never seen in my life.
The Navy says it still doesn't know what the objects are, and officials aren't speculating. A Navy spokesman simply confirming to CNN the objects seen in the various clips are unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs.
The UFO reports were first investigated by a secret $22 million program, part of the Defense Department budget, that investigated reports of UFOs. The program has since been shut down, but it was run by a military intelligence official who told CNN they found compelling evidence that we, quote, may not be alone.
You've hired a boat, perhaps to do a little sightseeing along a beautiful coastline, or maybe to do a little sea fishing. It's a lovely, sunny day, all is calm. You look over the side, hoping to see some fish that have been attracted to the boat's gentle wake. But instead, you see a strange green light in the shape of an enormous donut, pulsating beneath you. What on earth is it? Preston Dennett's new book, Undersea UFO Base, presents 10 years of research into such activity off the southern California coast. Mile for mile, this body of water is one of the biggest producers of USOs, unidentified submerged objects, on the entire planet. It lies between Santa Catalina and the mainland and reaches depths of nearly 5,000 feet. Preston has documented about 150 cases of UFOs and USOs here, reaching back nearly 100 years, and it's still happening today. Boaters who choose to travel in this area do so at their own risk. There are nearly a dozen cases on record here in which boaters have found themselves targeted by USOs. Consider what happened to the Washington family on July 10th, 1955. At about 2:30 in the afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. George Washington and their 11-year-old daughter were 13 miles off the coast of Newport Beach on their way to Catalina Island on their yacht, when Mrs. Washington spotted the strange object hovering at about 2,500 feet. Mr. Washington stopped the boat so they could better observe the object. Using binoculars, they saw what they described as a perfectly round, grey-white craft. It appeared to be rotating and was surrounded by a strange haze. After about 6 minutes of observation, the Washingtons restarted their boat and continued their journey. But to their amazement, the object maintained its position directly over their boat. Mr. Washington radioed the Coast Guard and explained their situation. The officials at the Coast Guard told Washington to keep the object in sight and they would launch a plane to investigate. Suddenly, the object rose upward in a zigzag maneuver and disappeared into the clouds. By the time the Coast Guard plane actually arrived, the object was long gone. A similar case occurred in July 1987 to a group of people sailing from Catalina to Palos Verdes. It was about 4 in the morning when they saw what they first thought was a plane coming along the normal flight path. But as it approached, several strange details became apparent. Says the witness, "I noticed no tail, no wings, and no lights. Then it hovered over my sailboat, making no noise, and eventually went towards Catalina Island and out of sight." Proof that UFOs are targeting boaters occurred on January the 3rd, 2004. On that day, a Mr. Chiron was on the coast of Santa Monica during the afternoon when he observed a metallic, disc-like object hovering a few thousand feet above a yacht. The object stayed stationary in the sky, so he quickly grabbed his camera and snapped a photograph. Because he knew the length of the yacht, he estimated that the size of the UFO was about 30 feet wide. After a few moments, the strange craft darted away. These 3 cases involve UFOs flying and hovering above boaters. However, in this area, there are even more cases in which boaters found themselves targeted by objects coming from beneath.
The U.S. Navy just made a stunning admission. Naval officials yesterday confirmed that 3 separate UFO videos released by the New York Times in 2017 and previewed on the show are actually genuine. They do, in fact, show aerial phenomenon the Navy cannot explain, and that, in fact, our understanding of physics cannot explain. The Navy also recently sent a letter to Congressman Mark Walker saying that it takes UFO sightings very seriously and is working to investigate them.
The Navy has said very little, and in fact they've left the door open sometimes and almost implied, look, we might be dealing with commercial drones or even balloons. But now what they've done is turned around and said, number 1, this is real. And number 2, this is unidentified aerial phenomena. That's the phrase that they've used. Previously they've said advanced unknown aircraft. Now they're saying unidentified aerial phenomena. And that is, it's a term borrowed from the British government. We used it in the Ministry of Defense and we meant UFOs.
So the U.S. government is admitting that they have no idea what these things are, that they're probably not some Russian superplane. And nobody's paying attention to this. I mean, this seems like a watershed moment. I mean, we have all this tape of objects defying the known laws of physics right next to U.S. military installations. The military admits it. Why is this not page one news everywhere?
Well, it should be, absolutely. These aircraft carriers that many of these UFOs have been interacting with, obviously these are billion-dollar assets. And if the official position of the most powerful navy in the world is, frankly, little more than, we don't know what this is, I don't think that's good enough. And I think clearly people like Mark Walker don't think so either. And I would urge him to get the classified briefing that other senators have said they've received, and maybe within the bounds of not wanting to divulge classified information, but maybe some of these senators could then step forward and at least give us a clue of what we're dealing with here.
So it turns out it wasn't a weather balloon. I mean, they've been telling us that for 50 years. Oh, it's a weather balloon. It's not a weather balloon, is it?
No, absolutely not. Somebody in the Pentagon must have. They say we don't want to hypothesize about this. That's fine, but there must be in the Pentagon a best assessment, and there must be a view of what they're ruling out. We should be told.
There's obviously some reason they're not telling us. In 15 seconds, hypothesize as to what that reason might be.
Well, some secret too terrible to be told, but I think we should be told, or at least we should be hinted at.
Yeah, or maybe not. I don't know. They've been lying about it for 50 years. Maybe there's a reason they have been. I don't know, Nick.
Some were closer and brighter, others were deeper and appeared smaller and dimmer. They were each perfectly formed, thick donuts of bright green-blue light with a dark center. He estimated they were anywhere between 20 to 50 feet in size. Some were only 10 feet deep. Others appeared to be as deep as 100 feet. There may have been more, but they weren't visible in the deeper waters. They approached directly beneath the boat, pulsing on and off in seemingly random patterns. Baker and the other men were shocked. They wondered what kind of strange sea creatures these could be. They didn't appear to be jellyfish. On the contrary, they appeared to be artificial. All those donuts of light seemed to be identical, though at different depths. It was hard to tell if they were moving or whether they were stationary, blinking on and off under the boat. Most alarming was the way the objects seemed to target only their boat and the area around it. As they moved in to anchor, the objects continued to light up around them. Baker had the distinct feeling that the objects were aware of them, for he said, "Since they followed us and surrounded us." By the way, the United States government is taking these reports very seriously. They have apparently a secret program called the Fast Mover Program to detect them. When Mark D'Antonio, an astronomer and the chief video analyst for the Mutual UFO Network organization, was a guest on board a US submarine, a submerged craft traveled towards them at several hundred knots. The sonar operator shouted, "Fast mover, fast mover." It was logged, and Mark was asked to forget it. We have now examined 8 cases in which boaters have been targeted by UFOs and USOs. All of the cases follow exactly the same pattern. For some reason, UFOs and USOs are very attracted to boats. While at sea, boaters have to be aware of many things: wind and waves, regulations, and the safety of other boaters and wildlife. There is now one more thing to add to that list: USOs.